Portlandia, March 26, 2011. And thus it begins, once again, all over again, just as it should, hungover and with a brutal case of the shits outside a Starbucks in Portland, Oregon. I'm about to wheel across town and hang out with Rotting Christ from Greece, one of the most preeminent black metal bands from their respective country, as well as a brutal no-nonsense death metal band from Poland called Hate. Melekesh will be there as well, the first real-deal extreme metal band from Jerusalem. Abigail Williams and Letrous Nocturne, it is rumored, will be mulling around as well. I've been in PDX nearly a year, the Northwest for 3, give or take, an experience summed up as an unspeakable roller coaster of false starts and dramatic anticlimaxes. Like all the other ragged transplants that have escaped to this green DC, I'm but another one of the vague, tragic lemmings blindly seeking the superficial dream of the 90s. If you've never lived here, none of this will make sense. Once upon a time, in the year of 1999, another Detroit refugee returned to our native land. Having inhabited Seattle for a year, she explained best she knew how. Still, nothing resonated. She pleaded with me to leave Detroit at once, claiming that I was the only one from our old reality that could make the cut, an ominous reality all transplants know too well, bitterly or joyously. Alas, I was young, 18 years old, and needed to dismember the plot lines of my youth. 7 gruesome long years passed before I actually made it to the Emerald City. Then I understood. I had a taste of Seattle and its boundless promise, but only the very last gasp, the mechanical jerk before total suffocation. Summer 2008, I rode high on the final roar of that elusive and widely misunderstood grunge inertia, a term used only for vaguely perceiving minds, and one that is instantly laughable to every Seattleite. In reality, the Seattleverse has dick to do with Nirvana and everything to do with an ingrained cultural resistance and the ever-continual counterculture exodus there. That last summer, in 2008, before the dam finally broke, the city was on fire. Seattle was among the few territories poised to ransack the entire United States on every level, musically, artistically, politically. It was a glorious beacon of purest example. Then AIG exploded, shrapnel slicing the planetary economic sphere. Wall Street fell, and within days I was unemployed. Within 2 months, I was essentially homeless, and every magazine I ever wrote for withered into nothingness like the extinction of the dinosaurs. And as the cold froze to record temps, and the mortgages began foreclosing, and the unions were being defeated, and the budgets were crashing, and unemployment was running out, the Seattleites acted as all Americans did in sensing the budding catastrophe. While they pretended everything was peachy keen on the surface, they moved in a flanking conspiracy of self-denial, silently cannibalizing each other, growing greedier, more fearful, more desperate. Thousands began pouring onto the streets, transplants bailing on the city for hometown ground. It was trickling away, but the screws hadn't totally come undone yet. Jump to now. Portland is Seattle with missing teeth and a bad case of the shakes. If Seattle represents the end of something, then this is where the mutated backwash flows. Dirtier, dingier, harder-edged. Portland is a veritable nation-state within the parameters of the city, the People's Republic of Cascadia, or Cascadia for short, the oft-ubiquitous term amongst the fringe. Whereas Seattle is more the New York of this northwest axis, Portland is a neighborhood-centric cocktail, something between Ann Arbor and Berkeley, at least in southeast Portland. Downtown, however, is a freakish collision of Detroit, Manhattan, and Alex Proyas's Dark City. The naked bicycle races stretching for miles of flesh, the endless film festivals with full bar service, a culture divorced from automobile slavery and the greatest public transportation system in the nation, hundreds of house venues, info shops, street vendors and street performers, DIY healthcare, legal household pot crops, and urban farms with cawing roosters, public outreach programs so well organized it makes a tragic joke of any other shithole in the US of A. But the cold has arrived. The sickness is in. The great promise has devolved into an empty hog pen of intoxication. As the doomed lurch the shadows, the young ones light up the neon stretch. The rich ones, the beautiful ones press on. 50 square miles of drunk people being drunk, falling over themselves, and so many nut-hugging jeans and bow-rat stashes it burns out the irises. Freak Mecca has crumbled substantially, rendering itself a near impenetrable clique of omnipresent nihilistic flakiness. For every attempted transplant showing up with nothing but $100 in life savings, there are 5 more hipsters already planted that stroll right on by, ignoring them completely. Tough shit, buddy, their eyes read. Go back to Kansas. In 1 year, I've seen at least 2,000 soul-seeking travelers repelled, and not just Kerouac-brained explorers. I'm talking entire families of the freshly homeless, people that worked full-time factory jobs and mortgages, marriages, children in places like Arkansas, Iowa, Connecticut. By official figures, the market is now experiencing 60,000 home foreclosures per month. Some refuse to leave and starve on the streets. Others give in and shuffle off to who knows where. Some fall apart and turn to massive junkies. And some, like me, get lucky. By lucky, I mean a minimum wage job at 20 hours per week. And that was only after 700 resumes and walking every inch of the city, block by block, for 3 months straight. Being a famous metal journalist guy means nothing in the United States anymore, not even to Carl's Jr. Well, I'm done. After 12 solid months of living like a dog, I'm ready to leave this place for the sake of doing something phenomenally insane. In 2 months, I'll be taking the cheapest one-way plane ticket to Europe and getting dumped off smack dab in the middle of the old world with nothing more than a backpack of survivalist doom. I will then, as before, use every hustler trick in the book to make my way across the continent, all while unearthing the deepest fringe undercurrents in European counterculture. And maybe, just maybe, I won't have to come back. Maybe some gorgeous Scandinavian honey with flowing blonde locks and a triple deep bust will marry me for a green card. Maybe I'll ditch out once and for all and dodge that lethal fuck you Shima creeping towards the coast. Maybe I'll be absent when the billion gallons of core exit-laced neurotoxic oil sludge thaws and rises from the Gulf floor. Maybe I'll stretched out on an Italian mountainside when the Tea Party descends on Washington, D.C. Cairo style to demand the reinstatement of pre-existing medical conditions. If you are just now stepping into the maelstrom, then this book probably won't make much sense. If you are oblivious to the underground, then nothing will make sense. Which is fine, quite frankly, because Fortress Europe disregards such courtesy. Foreshadowing is overdone and retreads are a drag, but it's important to comprehend that this book is a sequel. Some time ago, I was desperately unhappy. 25 years of Detroit had become enough. One night, not thinking the matter over too clearly, I dispatched a press release declaring a living book entitled The Big Shiny Prison. I threw everything in a van and hopped a Greyhound for California, determined to make my way through every territory possible, to cover all sorts of the American underground and regurgitate the journey through my own twisted aesthetics. 293 days, 30,000 miles, 35 states, 2 national tours, 50 hours of interviews, and 606 plus hours on Greyhounds later, I somehow completed this objective. 8 months to finish the manuscript, and yet another year of rejection before I dropped it online as a free PDF. The biggest news services in the underground then picked it up. RSS feeds shot all over the planet, and the download count just kept coming and coming. And the emails kept coming. The mad offers and karmic craziness. The resonance has been continual. So here we are again. One man, one vision, no budget. Ready to lunge headfirst into an array of dicey situations. Bad noise, street freaks, and total uncertainty. Whereas the Big Shiny Prison set out to educate and illuminate, Fortress Europe is for the real trolls. It is therefore expected that the reader already possesses a considerable knowledge or basic understanding of the slang and tribes of the counterculture. Secondly, Fortress Europe is a book of action. Unlike its predecessor, which shot deep into personal narrative, philosophy, sociology, politics, etc., I'm generally going to keep my big mouth shut and let it flow. Everything major I wanted to say about America and the underground at large I already did. And what's the point of forced rhetoric anyway? 1 month left and the confirmations are in. Just a waiting game until Deutschland, Belgium, Netherlands, UK, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Poland, Italy, Denmark, Slovenia, and Czech. And then black coffee, moonshine, what have you, with Gorgoroth, Fintroll, Bethlehem, Agathocles, Corpus Master, Beharit, Dionysius, Battle Lore, Funeral Winds, Corpus Christii, Enochian Crescent, Ingurgitating Oblivion, Primordial, Deranged, and Wolfbrigade. The only trouble left is actually getting to them.